of the Power 5 conferences, here are the teams that actually control their own path to a conference championship game. Okay, I'll put them up on the screen for those of you watching, but those of you that are just listening, in the ACC, it's only two, Clemson and North Carolina. In the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan, and Illinois control their own path. In the Big 12, there are three teams, TCU, Texas, and Baylor. In the Pac-12, only Oregon controls their own path. And in the SEC, only two, Georgia and LSU. So those are the only teams that have full control over their own path to their own conference championship game. So then you start looking at their schedules and you start to see and think to yourself, okay, who's got the more difficult path? Who's got the more difficult locations to play? And here's basically where you land at, or where I land out. Discount the ACC because Clemson and North Carolina basically have nothing in front of them. They're going to play for the ACC championship game. In the Big Ten, it's very obvious. Ohio State's going to play Michigan. Michigan's going to play Ohio State. By the way, Illinois got Purdue and Michigan. In the Big 12, it's a little bit different. Let me come back to that. Oregon, a little bit different. I'll come back to that. Georgia and LSU, fairly straightforward pass, not much in front of them in order to get to that game in Atlanta. But the Big 12 and the Pac-12 is different, and I think that we're going to have a fantastic race to the finish in both of those conferences. Let me just outline this really quickly. In the Big 12, let's start with TCU. They're sitting in the top spot right now, but they've got two really tough games ahead of them in their next three. At Texas this week, at Baylor also the week after. That's going to be very difficult, right? I've talked so many times over the last couple of weeks of how hard it is to win on the road in tough environments, and so TCU definitely has a tough path. Baylor, they've got three really tough games: Kansas State, TCU, and at Texas. So that's a tough path for Baylor, and if you're looking at this, why did I save the Longhorns for last? Well, let me tell you why. Because it goes with exactly what I was telling you in this breakdown for the TCU game specifically. Texas's toughest remaining opponents are TCU this week and Baylor later in the season. Both at home. Both at home. This is why it matters where you play, and this is why it matters if you're a top-tier team about taking care of your home field. So I still think Texas is going to play in their conference championship game, and here's to the larger point. You better, Texas. Oklahoma is down. You cannot be the University of Texas and be a program that we all think that you should be and not go to the conference championship game in a year in which your biggest rival and the only other real threat from a recruiting sense, Oklahoma, is down. Texas has to go to the conference championship game. The schedule is perfectly set up for them. They're playing their remaining big games at home against TCU and Baylor. There's no excuses. Texas needs to play for the conference championship. They've got the schedule, and they need to get it done. Last one would be the Pac-12, and it's the game that I just touched on. Washington is at Oregon. Oregon also has Utah at home and then at Oregon State. I would just say this. Of the remaining contenders in the Pac-12, Oregon has by far the toughest road to hoe. Those are three very difficult games. They're going to have to play really well to win them. Even at Oregon State is not an easy contest. Okay, so that Oregon State team is going to be difficult for Oregon to beat. They've got Washington this week with the top-ranked passing offense in the country. They've got Utah, which just handled them last year twice, once in the regular season and once in the conference championship game. So Oregon is up against it. They do have two of those three at home, which should bode well for them, seeing as they've won 23 straight in Autzen Stadium. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.